Marriage/engagement photographers/videographers of Reddit. Have you developed a sixth sense for which marriages will flourish and which will not? What are the green and red flags? Photographer here. I've done a few engagement photos and weddings. Red flags: when one person is critical of the other during the shoot but then posts the photos with the caption, "About to marry my best friend and my soulmate." Also, when they badly photoshop themselves and their partners to appear better looking than they actually are. Green flags: a couple who can laugh together when doing awkward poses, when they are wiping sweat from their foreheads, and when something goes wrong in general. Wedding planner here. Red flags: nerves are normal, but when one of the pair start doubting whether they should go through with it way before the day, you know something isn't quite right. Green flags: they make decisions together and have each other's backs, especially when family can be pressuring. Ex-wedding photographer. Typically I saw red flags when the bride or groom is super quiet, I mean silent and just watching. One instance was a groom who barely said 10 words to anyone during the ceremony or reception afterwards. The bride and her mother were extremely loud and excited the entire time. The bride needed everything to be perfect. I dropped off the photo bundle with them 2 weeks later and he was still quiet. She however complained about all of the pictures because the groom wasn't smiling enough. She wanted a discount because I couldn't make him look happy enough. They got divorced about a year later. I know because I did his engagement photos with his new fiancée about 4 years after his first wedding. His engagement photos showed him much happier. Ex-wedding photographer here. There were only a couple situations where I had doubts about the couple's future and one where I was certain. I met the couple in a cafe to discuss their ideas and my services. The girl was very happy. She was very emotional and interested. The guy, however, was rolling his eyes and grunting at everything, and I stopped trying to get him involved in the conversation after he ignored me twice. It made the girl very uncomfortable and she was apologetic of his behavior. I don't know what happened to them, as they apparently chose to reschedule their wedding and didn't hire me in the end. I declined shooting a wedding when the person who was going to hire me was the groom's mom. When I asked her to arrange a meeting with the couple, she said that they didn't want a wedding, meaning they wanted to elope, and it was her initiative to celebrate it. I tried to play "I want to hear bride's ideas" card, but she told me the bride has no ideas. She obeys the groom, and the groom obeys mom. So I'll only talk to the mom, so I declined. I hope the girl is fine. No one deserves a controlling MIL. Used to be a wedding planner. Red flags: constant apologizing for their other half's behavior/attitude, lack of input from one of them, too much input from a family member or members, anger, inability to make a decision and stick with it, overriding a once joint agreement of something. At one wedding I didn't actually meet the groom till the day of, I just knew his name Joseph. Edit. Also when they are very young/have a small child and/or haven't been together long. Green flags: when a couple mutually respect the other's wishes and compromise, both present at every meeting, supportive and patient, friendly and respectful of staff, when you can tell they are both relieved to see one another again and it's like no one else is there. It's like an unspoken conversation with each other and makes me smile. You have been visited by the happy husky. Like the video and you will experience happiness within the next 24 hours. Now back to scheduled programming. Photographer here. You can tell somewhat based on how the couple treats each other on the wedding day. If they are respectful toward one another and toward me during a day full of stress, then I think that's a good indicator of being able to deal with other problems that may arise during a marriage. Best advice I got about marriage was from my psychology professor. He told us never to marry someone until you've seen how they react when something goes wrong. I think for some couples that may turn out to be the day of the wedding. You never really know someone until you put them in front of a slow computer. Wedding videographer. Probably when the bride got absolutely blackout drunk and started telling everyone at the party, in that drunk loud whisper, that she was fucking the groom's brother. LOL, this isn't a red flag. This is when you get a divorce. Wedding videographer here. I don't usually follow the marriage all that closely after the video is delivered, but usually you have a feeling as a neutral third party about whether it's going to last or not. While I agree with most of the stuff mentioned here, I found that the microcosm of how the couple feels about each other usually comes out during the cake cutting. If they're drinking then they've usually had a few by that point and it's a moment when everyone is watching you do something potentially awkward with your new SO. When I see a new bride or groom aggressively smush cake into the other's face I usually feel like that's a strong sign of an unbalanced relationship. Sometimes they're both having fun with it and you can tell it's cool, but most of the time you can tell that the person with cake on their face is either shocked or angry about it. Again, I don't have hard data to track results, but that's the thing that usually informs my opinion about how it's going to work out. Cake artist here. I had a couple come in for a tasting. Appointment was for 7 PM, but he was late. First half hour was just her. She told me they met at a stable where they both kept their horses. Those horses were going to be featured at the wedding as the bride and groom would ride them to the site. A beautiful farm venue. She described in detail her self-designed medieval gown. Flower wreath in her hair, embroidered shoes like some from a museum. Sounded lovely. She wanted a cake like a castle, which was a specialty of mine. The whole wedding would be over the top, but not in a cringy way. Then he arrives, barely says hi to her, sits down and starts telling me about his wedding. He'll ride and dressed as a riverboat gambler with a frock coat, brocade vest, string tie, big hat, gold pocket watch, and sterling silver spurs. He's fine with the castle cake, but wants to incorporate the watch and a pair of mother of pearl handled pistols. Picture given. I had already decided that I was not going to work with them. No way could I come up with a cake that would work for them, but they were there so I brought out the samples. For the next hour they carried on two entirely separate monologues. They didn't address each other, or me, and they didn't listen to each other, or me. I made no attempt to book them that night, and when they called later in the week I told them their date had been taken. They were living in two incompatible and entirely self-contained fantasies. I doubt they even made it to the wedding day. Wedding videographer here. I try to get to know both people beforehand, so I can work on their hobbies/unique traits into my product. A big red flag is when one person is clearly trying to change the other. I had one dude who loved poker, craft beer, cigars, hanging with his rowdy friends, video games, etc. I planned a cool shoot where I had all his friends in an old west saloon, and he sees his bride-to-be, etc. But she steps in and declares he won't be doing any of those things anymore. Poor bastard just sat there in silence as I awkwardly had to plan them shopping for a Yorkie puppy instead. Halfway through post-production after the wedding, he called and said he was getting an annulment. I wanted to say, could have told Yasso, but I try to stay neutral. Green flags are just the opposite, embracing the other person's habits/hobbies/interests, basically not being a controlling freak show. Former wedding videographer, when doing the letter read the bride at the end said, which I quote, "Well, that was fucking stupid. I cut that part out in the final video." Edit. Let me clarify what I'm referring to. The couple reads their letter from their partner prior to the wedding. She just got done reading the groom's letter and was talking about what he wrote. To be fair, what he wrote was not exactly Shakespeare, but still a harsh response. Photographer here. To me the biggest sign is the cake cutting. Some people like to smear the cake everywhere as a joke. Some people don't. Usually the couple is in sync about this. They know what the other would like and they don't smush cake on the other's face if they wouldn't want that. Sometimes one of them, usually the groom, will force cake all over the other's face and embarrass and upset them. I've seen this happen a handful of times and all of those relationships that I have kept up with have ended in a divorce. I used to help a buddy of mine do wedding videos back in college. I found the bigger the country hit they use for the wedding song, the shorter the marriage. Obscure songs seem to last longer. I can totally see this. People who can't pick a song to dance to that speaks to their relationship other than whatever top 40 romance song is currently popular, or by choosing some overdone number. I don't know, it just seems like their relationship has no real depth. Video editor here. I've had my fair share of wedding videos back then. Red flags. One partner is having a lot of fun, dancing and mingling, while the other is mostly sitting down. They aren't smiling except when taking photos. The vows are very fluffy or almost selfish, like how you'd imagine in 11 years talking about their Prince Charming. Bonus if the counterpart has something very short and not as emotional. Green flags. They can't keep away from each other. Laughing during the first dance, at the aisle, cake, speeches etc. I know maybe cheesy for some, but themed weddings. People that can dork out together stay together. My dad is a award-winning photographer. He has been in the business for over 30 years and says this is definitely true. It's always the brides that turn into bridezillas. Yes, they exist. Or the grooms that could care less about the wedding and just want to get it over with that have very short marriages. Sometimes one or the other go back to their room because they forgot their cufflinks or garter and never come back. Ghosting your own wedding is a power move. There is one particular venue that has a 100% divorce rate with our clients. It's a state park, which I've dubbed Omen Meadows. When I shot a Mormon wedding and the groom was pretty flamboyant and flirty with his best man, I later saw them fondling each other's butts discreetly when they thought no one was looking. Not a photographer, but have been a wedding makeup artist for a decade. For me, I don't often meet the husband, so this is more my observation of the bride. I have a feeling my face looks like I'm trying to smile during a diarrhea attack, while I'm thinking you poor thing about the hubby. Red flags. The bride already trashed on mimosas at noon. The bride ordering everyone around. Bride having a meltdown about stupid shit like seating arrangements. Mother-in-laws that refuse to even sit next to each other to get makeup done. Bride talking smack about hub's family. Bridal party fighting with each other. Caring more about spending a ton of money and being a fancy pants than being kind to your loved ones. Green flags. They had Dick's burgers and a cake for the food/drink. Super laid back people. When literally everything was going wrong, the bride and family were laughing and hugging and sorting it out. Like caterer didn't bring enough food. They ordered pizza. DJ didn't show. Bride made a playlist on her phone of her hub's fav music, and then my fav. They were both Harry Potter fans. The pre-ceremony gift and card. They gave each other the exact same gift and card. It was sweet as hell. You have been visited by the smart studying doggo. You'll be blessed with good grades only if you subscribe to Comment Awards and like the video. PG! On top, food chain won't stop. New game. Hot box that blue haze. One lock, 2 chains. No bras, 2 babes. Mic drop. New stage. Lights in my rear view. 5 cops. Food race. Faster than a Tesla. They say I'm exhausted.